All right. It is February 18th, and it is 6 p.m., and I welcome everyone, a huge crowd tonight, to the Curry County Board of Commissioners meeting. I'll call the meeting to order, and please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have a bunch of public comments. There's more here, Jay, and we weren't sure, Natasha wasn't sure if these were topics
Since we all have to stand out in the hall, could you possibly speak up so we can hear you?
I don't know if that's going to be possible, ma'am.
I bet you could try. Give it a shot.
Well, I'll talk as loud as I can, but
go.
not be uncomfortable for everyone in here.
Oh.
So,
That sounds fine.
is that okay?
Yeah.
All right,
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
all right.
Did you turn on the thing?
I'm not sure if it's
Is the speakers working out there?
Now then.
All right, there you go. Look at that. Problem solved.
Okay. All right, amendment and approval of the agenda. It's actually a pretty light agenda tonight. Anyone?
So I would like to amend the agenda. I was going to remove the wildfire hazard map discussion action item, the resolution. Couple of reasons. Initial reason was so we had discussed at the town hall that we were going to separate the two issues between the wildfire map and land use. And that updated version of the resolution didn't make it in the packet. It is in the digital packet now. If anybody goes online and you open it up, you'll see a revised version. However, even more importantly, the wildfire map, the wildfire hazard map discussion is really dynamic right now in Salem. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of discussion around this, and so I had planned to. I'm headed up there. I'm going to leave from this meeting. I'm headed up there tonight for a tomorrow morning meeting with a few individuals in Salem to get a better pulse of where legislation is landing with this. I was informed today that Governor Kotek has suspended the reviewing of appeals until legislation has solidified, so that if legislation makes adjustments to the wildfire map or repeal of the wildfire map, there wouldn't be any need for to go through the process of appeals. So she's asking, you still send in the appeals if you desire to, but that the appeals won't be looked at or evaluated until after the legislative session, to make sure that whatever Senate Bill 80 looks like after this session is what is actually being appealed. So that's the reason I'd like to take it off. I think that and the other, the pieces, if there's pieces in there that need to be amended, we don't want to go down the road and amend them at later dates. We'd like to have something that's, in terms of the wildfire map piece, that's complete and cohesive.
Right. I did not get anything specific from the governor's office other than what I saw. I think everybody else saw in the media. That's what I saw. I didn't get any emails or official notification about it. But from our earlier meeting, I do know that you're going to talk to some people that will definitely be impactful in how we proceed. So I know separating it, I told you at the meeting, I felt strongly about that. Separating it was the right thing to do. I had hoped we would be able to discuss what that looks like tonight, but I do think it's wise to not move forward with anything, and I would support pulling it.
Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of our senators had a town hall on Saturday in Douglas County, And I've seen some just kind of bits and pieces and of that, but it'll nice to see about getting a report back from Commissioner Trist from his trip up to Salem, meeting with some of those individuals involved with how quickly it is moving. Yeah.
Okay. And I will say this for everybody that's here, our next meeting is in Port Orford, so you won't have to drive so far for public comments on the next one. But yeah, I support removing it also. So remove 7?
Correct. 7A.
Okay. Any other amendments?
No, not from me.
Jay, any other amendments?
No, not at this time.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move to remove discussion item A, wildfire hazard map, subsection I, resolution.
I'll second.
All right, motion and second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0. Next up, public comments. Of
You
course.
can always public comment on anything. If you wanted to, get home before it gets too late, you can certainly do that, because there's a lot of public comments and they probably will go quite a long time. One thing that is that if there's a group of you who have very similar things to say, and you do, like you're an actual coordinated group, if you chose one spokesperson to speak on behalf of the group, that is always helpful as well.
All right, so we will move into public comments right now. And first up is Lynn Coker.
Thanks for the opportunity to address you this evening. We've been so busy working a lot of different issues. I wanted to hark back to a situation that festered in the last part of last year. It had to do with the widely reported news that came out the last of December 2024, where the county uncovered serious and long-standing financial reporting mismanagement and failures. These issues had been in full effect since probably 2020, 2021, when COVID first struck. Also, we have to remember that it was about this time where we received over $4 million in COVID relief funds delivered to the county. Well, as a result of the unfolding efforts of our finance team, after extensive investigation since December 31st through January, we've come to learn that successive county administrations, going back to maybe even 2017, had consistently failed to monitor, track, and report the flow of county funds. This included money that was received, was not recorded or partially recorded or inconsistently recorded. It was then dispersed, inconsistently tracked, and almost never was there verification that these funds actually delivered services valuable to county residents. So we roll the videotape back to 2024. The federal government, the last day of the year, called the county and said, "We're very interested in you sending us your reconciliation on as much as $2 million that we had sent you." These were funds that came out of the COVID pool. Though you didn't author any of this, you and your team got the call. The county did not have immediate access to reconciliation information in order to satisfy the federal government. Faced with this crisis, our new finance leader, County Treasurer Nick Vicino, and Director of Finance Keena Wolf, along with their teams, they rose to the occasion. Through diligent effort, they successfully traced and tracked the path that these funds traveled as they flew through the system from the time the $2 million was received, more than $2 million was received, all the way through to the disbursements. Not an easy task, considering the fact that we had systems that weren't working for a very, very long time. So I'm here to say our family is very grateful for this team. We're very grateful for our treasurer. We're very grateful for our director of operations. I don't know how we were blessed with such wonderful operating leaders in our county, but they certainly did go to bat for us here. and they weren't the only ones. A reflection of your team leadership is such that every department was on notice to stand up and work in support of this effort to build the package to reconcile our funding back to the federal government. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Tim, is it Scullin?
Hi. Since you're not talking about the thing I came here to talk about, here I got my 3 minutes, but these are your constituents. People have come here, shown up tonight, have other things to do, obviously, but are concerned enough that they're here to talk to you. And so I think that's very significant. And I would imagine that most of them are probably opposed to the whole forest takeover thing. So, you know, listen to your constituents and heed them. And we do want to help you, but not doing the wrong thing.
Thank you.
Tim? Georgia Cockerham.
Georgia Cockerham Brookings. I'm here again to discuss my unanswered question about $2.7 million, the status of which Finance Director Keena Wolf claims was unknown to her when stating, "We may have money, we may not have money." The 2.7 was part of a 4.4 million American Rescue Plan grant, ARP. The funds were deposited by the federal government into the county's local government investment pool account, the LGIP. At the February 5th BOC meeting, Ms. Wolf's presentation quickly took on the nature of a rant. "This is not my fault. I take no responsibility to the prior people department that had the inability to do their job." As she continued, her demeanor quickly morphed into one of anger, even swearing and blurting out, "I'm tired of this."
Georgia, I'm going to interrupt you, okay? If you'd like to make a complaint against an employee, I'd love to see you after the meeting and you can make a personnel complaint.
I'm sorry.
But-
I'm sorry, Commissioner Alcorn, but I'm not making a complaint, and I've got
But
visual information.
I would ask you to not single out a county employee right now. If you want to refer to the department itself, that's fine. But the continued discussion about a specific county employee needs to stop. And
Well,
if you want to make a complaint about that county employee, I'll see you after the meeting. I'll take that complaint. We'll investigate your complaint. But I would encourage you to refer to the department and not the individual.
Well, you just had a speaker referring to departments and the individual, and this particular individual directed her comments at a board meeting to the public and to me. I'm about to read important information that I think the public and you need to know, and this has to do with the department, and I appreciate that. The agendas and minutes of board meetings from February to May 2024 hold information much different from what Ms. Wolf claims. They suggest her blame of the former treasurer and finance director is grossly misplaced. The minutes for the February 22nd meeting report on a presentation made to the board by a company named CoFile. The minutes read that the board discussed having the finance director identify the amount of ARP funds currently in the LGIP account and available for use in hiring CoFile. The May minutes reflect the BOC's receipt of their account balance request. They include an order by the BOC to allow up to $1.2 million of ARP funds. The same minutes confirm that the contract with CoFile was approved, for which $500,000 of ARP funds were allocated. This strongly indicates Ms. Wolf's knowledge about the $2.7 million in the county's LGIP account, reporting to the commissioners that there were ample funds for their request. Furthermore, after allocating $500,000 of ARP funding to CoFile, she did not, it seems, as finance director, send an amended report to the U.S. Treasury reflecting the new application of funds. Is Ms. Wolf not familiar with the 2023 Curry County Financial Policy? Item 19, page 21 reads, that the Finance Department will maintain a consistently updated list of all grants, including reporting deadlines, financial obligations, and contractual requirements. To the commissioners, Ms. Wolf stated that before being hired, she saw a need of Curry County for her services. For those services, she is provided a healthy salary and benefits. As a Curry County citizen whose taxes contribute to her employment package, I'm surprised she's allowed to publicly rant and cuss about the work for which she's being compensated. There's a significant difference between what she calls harassment and the public's right to know. Thank you.
Typically, I give a disclaimer before public comments. I didn't do it today because we have so many, and I know that many of you have traveled quite a ways, and I'm really trying to streamline this and get as many of you up to the podium as I can efficiently. But I am going to make that disclaimer now. For those of you watching at home and those of you listening to public comments, I want you to remember that nothing said at the podium has been fact-checked or verified. In fact, it may not be accurate information. So I would encourage you, before you get on social media and you make a post about something that someone says, that please fact check it, please verify it before you take any kind of action like that. This is public comment time, is where people can get up and make comments, and oftentimes it is not accurate information. In fact, it is misinformation. That being said, we'll move forward in public comment with Tom. I think is it Beanie?
Tom Bean, I live in Harbor. Tried to listen to the town hall you had last week. It's tough to get through that first hour.
Yeah.
We need to, and I'm talking about, I say we because I am part of this county also, figure out how to work a Zoom meeting before we apply it. It was very boring sitting there watching Doyle do his thing instead of watching the slide presentation. And then whoever did the slide presentation needs to learn how to speak in public. Because every slide presentation, it was the next slide presentation, and I am so sick and tired of people that are public speakers in public offices, even journalists on TV, that can't say anything without saying or
Next up, Andre Bay.
Jay, when you was head of the juvenile department, you had one of the lowest recidivism rates in the state, if not the lowest. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And you opened up your restaurant. It's hard to open a restaurant here, and they usually don't make it through the first off season when the tourists leave. And so under your leadership there, I'd imagine you've done it right, because I go by your place every day and it's booming. Your leadership out in the community, teaching our Rugrats sports, leadership skills, even helping behind the scenes. You've helped me feed the homeless. With those leadership skills, you should be the chair. I was disappointed when you turned it down. I think these meetings would run a little bit better if you would slide over and take that chair spot. Brad, you always say call to fact check. I did, and you did call me back. I appreciate that. Took you 13 days to do it. I also want to know if you have a list of the promises made and the promises kept on your campaign trail. Maybe you can provide that. Keena, I guess, is not here, but I do want to welcome her to the Potty Mouth Club. You guys got a laugh out of it when she did it. When I did it, I got a spanking. The meeting got stopped. Please don't swear. Rules for me, not for me. That sucks. Another thing I want to talk about the resolutions. The people have asked you guys to fund this county, and it is your job to find funding. And I think a lot of people forget that that is what you're doing right now. You're actually putting the time in to try to find a way to fund the county. Might not be going over the best, but respect for looking. I've been here 12 years, and this is the first board that I've seen sit here and actually look for a way to fund this county. So I appreciate that. That needs to be recognized. That's all I got. Oh, Brad, don't cut off your constituents no more. Georgia can say what she wants to say for 3 minutes. If you want to see a protest, we'll protest.
Well, I'm gonna.
No, there's no comments, Brad. You don't get the last word.
Well, what I'm going to tell you, Andre, and I'm going to tell everybody in this room, and I almost stopped you here, there will not be an attack on our employees. The people that come here every day to this county and do the work are not going to be attacked. We're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. And if you do it, I'm going to stop you. And if you don't stop, I'm going to shut the meeting down. You can attack us. You can attack us all you want.
We can redress our
But
government.
you will not attack our county employees.
We have the right to redress our government. All county employees work for us.
Next up is Iris Lever.
Is this his phone?
Oh,
It's on.
Andre, did you leave your phone up there?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want it?
Appreciate that.
I'll keep it brief. I don't want to insult any employees. My name is Iris Lever. I was born and raised in Curry County, and I'm currently raising my family here in a home in the Wooey. Our older children remember well being evacuated for the Checo Bar fire. I volunteer with my local fire board. I've followed this issue as best as I can. I watched the previous meeting. I attended the town hall. Thank you guys for putting that on. After reviewing all of that information, I wholeheartedly oppose what was previously item 7A, declaring a local emergency. It's not clear why this is being pursued now and what the goal is specifically, and if you cannot clearly outline what the plan would be, then it makes no sense to push this resolution at this time, unless you have motives that you don't want to clearly outline to the public ahead of time. Our forests are a treasure, and if you feel the same, I hope you will consider a different approach to this issue, one that builds the trust and community you claim to value. I appreciate you taking the time and effort to learn more on the evolving fire map issue. Thank you for your time.
Grady Givrant.
Hey everybody, Grady Grant.
Grant.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to say it sounds like, well, thanks for having us. Thanks for having this business meeting, after hours. That was cool. Thanks for listening to that part of everything we had to say last time. I'd also like to say I'm glad that you guys are thinking about separating the wildfire maps from the public land kind of takeover thing, that whatever's going on. I guess the one thing I got with that is that the draft on the agenda that, was dated to today and is supposed to be updated. I guess I'd just like to point out that at the end of it, Article 4, the fourth one, this is ostentatiously for the wildfire maps, but number 4, right at the end, it says the county formally declares this intention to assume its constitutional management authority over all public forest lands within the metes and bounds of its border.
So that was removed.
No, I just loaded that.
No, I know. I have
ago.
the most recent one. So it's been, I would tell you right now what it's been replaced with. In terms of the draft,
Okay.
it says, now, it's been adjusted to say this as of right now. Obviously, this is just a draft, and we're not even voting on this today, but the county formally declares its intention to appeal the assignment of properties to the wildfire risk classes as provided by OAR 692, and ORS 477490, and additionally to integrate a locally developed wildfire plan into the wildfire hazard mapping portal as allowed by OAR 629, da, 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 da. So that's what it currently says. But as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, that wasn't the one that didn't get uploaded, which is part of the reason why I want to get this pulled off.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Yep.
You bet.
I guess if that's the case, yeah, thanks for delaying the vote, and we'll definitely be back when those things make the agenda later.
Thanks.
John Goodwin.
Can you hear me? I am not prepared, frankly, and ill-informed. But what I understand and what I will say is that I think there are a lot of people here that wish simply to express dismay that we would contemplate turning over national lands that belong to the 300 million people of the United States to, no offense, but to county management. I think that is a terrible mistake. That's what I came here to express, and I think that there are many among us that are principally here for that. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Brett Cecil.
You may have to say that one more time.
Brett Cecil.
Good evening, Commissioners, Oregonians. I'm Brett Cecil from Port Orford. I won't take any more of your time this evening. I will withdraw my statement that I'd like to make this evening, but I will continue to oppose this resolution. As I've seen it written, I still haven't seen what Commissioner Trost has said has been amended to that resolution. So I continue my opposition, and I encourage others to do the same. Thank you.
Bob Morrow.
Thank you, men, for the job you're doing. It's got to be tough.
There are days.
Yeah, I'm Bob Morrow. I'm from Langlois, resident up there. And please don't create any more headaches for yourselves. Curry County already has enough challenges without unnecessary complications to your jobs. The well-intended, when it was designed, wildfire map is already being amended. Now you're considering declaring an emergency at the request of an out-of-state consultant with an alternate agenda. Is this truly a solution for Curry County citizens, or is it just another instance of political flood-the-zone disruption coming our way? The state of Utah's 10th Amendment failure at the Supreme Court last month should be a cautionary tale for you. You've heard from hundreds of residents over the last couple of weeks as the meetings have spun together very quickly. Included in those residents were experts in fire, forestry, and finance who are asking, why are you doing this? And so far, we have not seen any answers anywhere on the county website that would really show and explain clearly what it is you're trying to accomplish. What result are you looking for? Is it financial? Is it a management plan? Let us know, please. So I'm asking you to take a step back and carefully consider the likely consequences of your actions tonight. Is picking a fight with so many stakeholders what the county really needs right now? The only real winners of the resolution at this point will be the lawyers and the loggers. I would love to see that the rationale that you are using for pursuing this. Thank you.
And you're next.
Hello there, Commissioners. Thank you so much for hosting us tonight. And this is the first time I've been down here since you've done this room renovation, so it's looking good. Thank you so much. So I was here to speak on number 7A, and I'm just going to, based on what you've said, Jay, say thank you very much for listening to what people said at the last time. I did hear you both, or I thought people acknowledged that the two issues needed to be separated, and so I was disappointed to see it looked like the language from about assuming constitutional authority remained on there. So I'm really glad to hear that you're going to be taking that out, and I will look forward to seeing it. Honestly, owing to that imprecise language, it occurred to me that it was not clear if it was just national forest lands or state parks and city forest lands too that would be considered. So we've got to definitely take that out. But as you move forward, I do want to underscore that the idea that counties can assert sovereign authority over federal lands is really not an accepted legal doctrine. The 10th Amendment does not grant counties authority over federal lands, and U.S. courts have consistently ruled that the public lands remain under congressional and federal jurisdiction. I also wanted to point out that I was, studying up on some of the fire stuff and got a chance to review the very recently updated Curry County Community Wildfire Protection Plan that the county hired a consultant to work on. And I reviewed it, and I don't know if you guys have adopted it yet or if that's on the agenda to do, but it really provided a very well-considered strategy of many different things to do to work towards fire safety. And it recommended again and again and again to collaborate with partnering agencies and organizations that have expertise to accomplish crucial tasks. And it really laid out many of the things that are already in progress. And so I just want to underscore, I thought that that plan showed that in Curry County, we have a long heritage of local people working together. And even though I don't always agree with everybody, the people who work in the public agencies are neighbors in our communities that have a lot of important knowledge and expertise to contribute. And so I would say with any declaration that you, if you proceed with any declaration that has an intent to take over public land or federal land, especially if it's guided by an outside consultant from Arizona, that you will really risk destroying goodwill and established local partnerships that could help us all in the really important task of fire safety. So I do very much appreciate that you're trying to find ways to fund the county and take on problems that have been where the can's been kicked down the road. I really appreciate it, but this is not the right way to do it. Thank you for considering my view and for your public service.
Joy May.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Joy May, and I live in Port Orford. As always, thank you for stepping up to the difficult job of a county commissioner. And that includes listening to and considering the opinions from the citizens that you work for. So thank you very much for allowing us to give our comments. I'm quite sure, well, as we all know now, you have heard the news. Governor Kotak, whose job also includes listening to and considering the opinions of the citizens that she works for, has directed the State Forestry Department to pause any further action based on the Oregon Wildfire Hazard Map until the legislature decides to keep, update, or repeal it. And since lawmakers from both parties have expressed concern about it, it looks like this will be a bipartisan effort. Therefore, I'm asking the commissioners' resolution declaring a local emergency due to the imposition of wildfire hazard map and wildland urban interface zone legislation. That's a long title. Be immediately withdrawn. With the decision of the governor, there is obviously no local emergency present, which is connected to the map. The commissioners will now have time to address the other urgent issues that do face our county. Missing funds, a budget crisis, public safety, health and housing issues, the list goes on. So thank you for taking it off the agenda, but I am asking that it be completely withdrawn. I do have some interesting information because I began to research this before I found out the governor had made that decision. There's been a lot of conversation about insurance rates in conjunction with the wildfire hazard map, and that seemed to increase the sense of urgency to get this passed. And indeed, Oregonians have faced soaring premiums and have had their policies canceled. Those insurance changes began in 2020, after the disastrous Labor Day fires. The Oregon wildfire hazard map was not even in existence in 2020 or 2021. The initial draft wasn't presented until 2022. Insurers, all on their own, realize that there's been a dramatic increase in natural disaster-related losses due to climate change. This has resulted in higher fees being passed on to their customers. I mean, these are not, or they are for-profit companies, and who would want to see them bankrupt? But according to the Oregon Capital Chronicle, the interesting fact is the valuations of these companies have not declined since 2020. State Farm, it has the largest share of Oregon's property insurance market. Its worth today is $131 billion. That is an overall increase of $7 billion since 2020. Progressive, which we have some experience with, is also worth more. From nearly $58 billion in 2020, now is worth $110 billion. Are we really saying that insurance costs are rising because of a state wildfire risk map? I believe the numbers would tell you no.
Kim Foster.
Good evening. Again, my name's Kim Foster, live in Port Orford. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for tabling the resolutions for now. It's been good to see all of us communicating with each other out in the open, right? This is awesome. I love it. As I've said before, I genuinely appreciate your concern about wildfire risk mitigation and rising fire insurance costs, like many here. We all want to ensure that our homes in Curry County remain insurable in the long term. But I got to ask, have you consulted with any insurance companies about any of this? Any insurance providers confirming that this emergency resolution, either as it was written before or as it is now, will actually keep policies affordable? Because I spoke with my insurer, Allstate, and they made clear a few things, that the most effective ways to reduce wildfire risk are homeowner-driven. Metal roofs, which I need to get anyway, cement board siding, hardy plank, defensible space, clearing debris. Gave me a lot to think about to have those things confirmed, because I couldn't help but notice that these are all the same strategies that your volunteer Curry County firefighters have already recommended in great detail over the past few meetings. So I kind of have to wonder, which insurance companies have you consulted to ensure that this now updated resolution actually helps us? Have any of them confirmed what you're proposing will stabilize insurance rates? Or are we perhaps maybe getting a little distracted from focusing on real fire safety solutions? To my knowledge, the Wild Rivers Forest Collaborative here have gotten over $1 million in funding to do wildfire reduction treatments on the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. Both South Coast Lumber and Curry Citizens for Public Land Access are all active participants of that group, as well as OSU, Audubon Society, tribal individuals, In fact, when Court Boyce was county commissioner, apparently he used to attend all of those meetings and support this kind of collaborative management to get important work done. Again, we don't all have to agree, but we got to bring all this stuff out in the open and talk with each other. So it seems a bit confusing that we listen to a guy from Arizona at all when we've already got such a good group out here. At any rate, I hate to point out the obvious, but if we pursue a moratorium on building and planning code changes, I don't know if that's still in your resolution, if more of our neighbors, as a result, continue to ignore the best practices for home hardening as recommended by our volunteer firefighters, that will actually cause rates to go up over the long term. As vulnerable properties in our area that have not proactively brought up to standard succumb to fires, and that will make our homes harder to insure. So I guess what I'm saying is listen to firefighters, not outsider consultants who don't understand our forests. Thank you.
Jana Rogers.
Hello, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Jana Rogers, and I grew up here on the Southern Oregon coast, and my family lives here. I work in wildlife and public land policy. Currently, I'm in my final term at Lewis and Clark Law School, and I'm specialized in environmental, natural resource, and energy law. Local involvement is vital to improve federal land planning, but promoting a radical state of emergency to prescribe land uses on federal public land directly conflicts with federal law. The county cannot take ownership of federal land and give it to industry, and it cannot tell the Forest Service how to manage public land. This is part of a larger growing trend promoted by special interest groups. However, counties attempting to control public land management face very tough legal challenges. The Constitution's supremacy and property clauses grant the federal government authority over public lands. The legal precedents set in decisions like the Granite Rock decision affirm that federal agencies, not local governments, have the authority to manage these lands. The Baker County Natural Resources Plan is a prime example. Its ordinances are preempted and unenforceable. While the Federal Land Policy and Management Act and National Forest Management Act encourage local cooperation, they do not authorize local control over public lands. To influence land management, the county should engage early and become well-versed in the NEPA process. The thoughtful public comments show the extent of public lands we are talking about. These public lands are held in trust for all citizens, not just for local residents. Transferring control to counties would concentrate power in the hands of local economic leaders, allowing them to control resources at the expense of the large community that loves its public lands. Unsurprisingly, most public land lovers and the hunters and anglers that I grew up with strongly oppose proposals to defederalize or transfer public lands that ultimately undermine public land stewardship. The February 12th workshop recording was just made available to the public. I began listening to it today, and I have serious concerns about it. It is important that the people have time to really digest the material being presented, and I'm glad that you took it off the agenda today, but I hope it's rescinded altogether. I am also going to leave this resource here on the media table for anyone interested. It has a QR code and a link to download the full law review, and it outlines exactly why these sorts of efforts are not legally valid. Thank you for your time and continued conversation, and I really appreciate all of your work in the public interest. And I know that we're all here tonight because we deeply care about this amazing place we live. So thank you.
Zoe?
Good evening. Thanks you guys for having us all again. Sort of like you become the hostesses with the mostesses. I am so relieved to hear that this is a dynamic process and that you guys are responding to the ever-changing news and information that you're getting from the community. I think it's great that we're pushing pause on this emergency declaration. I did want to speak tonight to ask, like many people, that it get rescinded all together. if nothing else, removing the language referring to the constitutional authority to take over federal lands. It sounds like that has happened, which thank you. I appreciate your responsiveness to all the input. And it's great that you're going to Salem tomorrow. I was on the phone this morning with Senator Jeff Golden and asked him what was going on in Salem with this. He's a Democrat, and he himself has asked that the wildfire hazard map be repealed. So he's working proactively with Republicans in to get that done with the support of the governor at this point. So it sounds like there's a lot of common ground and kind of a statewide consensus that this has been a bit of a lightning rod and very controversial across the aisle. So I think there's hope that the wildfire map is going to get plucked out of this Senate bill. And hopefully all the good stuff that's in this Senate bill, which is allocating funding for communities and trying to help with wildfire preparedness, will stay. That sounds like the hope. Jeff did send me the speech he made on the Senate floor on February 4th and said that I could share it with everyone here, which I thought might give you some confidence in your decision to either pull this off the table altogether or at least pull back on the reins. So he wrote, speaking to the Senate president, "One thing's become clear about our ongoing wildfire crisis. Government can't possibly solve it on its own. Nothing we face calls more loudly for all hands on deck. Some of our Senate Bill 762 programs do promote the collaboration we need. One clearly doesn't. The recently released wildfire hazard map makes little to no sense to many rural landowners. They're frustrated and angry about it. We've reached this point because the map's findings are driven entirely by broad landscape factors and give no weight to the conditions and surroundings, basically the flammability of the property itself. You get that clearly when you walk individual properties with their frustrated owners. Pretty much every member of this chamber walking in their shoes would feel that frustration. I'm not attacking the science at play here. It's well established that you can't judge the hazard level of a particular parcel just by walking across it. Large landscape traits you can't see are major factors. But asking Oregonians to accept findings from a model that gives no weight, not 1%, to what actually exists on their specific properties asks them to ignore what their eyes are seeing. That's too much to ask. We need to stop asking it. I think you should be heartened because Jeff is a very staunch environmentalist and Democrat, and the fact that he is seeing eye to eye with other Republican lawmakers about this gives me hope that they're going to fine-tune this. I asked him about timeline, and he said that he imagines that they could probably have it repealed within a month. So if that helps you feel better about your decision to hold back, I'm excited that maybe we can get to some common ground. Also, I think Ann made a great point, bringing your attention to is it the CWPP, the fire plan that was published last August for the county. Have you guys seen that? Yeah. It just seems like a great foundation with a lot of great resources and analysis, and it seems like the overarching theme of that is collaboration. Like the more we work together and pull in all of the resources, having one of those sounds like poises us to be able to apply for grants and attract more resources to the county. But just going it alone sounds like a very lonely place, very worrisome and risky thing to do. So thank you again. I look forward to seeing how this evolves. And thank you everyone else for showing up once again.
Can you read that name? The last name?
Mari Locos?
Yes, thank you.
Is that, how do we say it?
That's pretty darn good.
Pretty close?
Pretty close?
Surprise.
Okay.
It's just hard to read, that's all.
Well, thank you guys for having us here and for the work you do. It cannot be easy trying to manage the Curry County budget with such a dearth of money, and I understand that. But I'd like to hark back to the thing I talked about the last time we were together, and that is the concept of the amount of money.
Can you pull that? The people out in the hallway keep trying to get in here.
The amount of money that people presume they're going to make off of logging. So when Brown and Labonte were commissioners, they wanted to log the small area that they had just north of Blacklock, which was traded for the piece at Pacific High eventually. And, you know, we had a meeting and I discussed with them the actual costs. And Labonte actually went out there and looked and the cost of what it was going to take the road. But the biggest thing was the long-term expenses that you have to consider when you're talking about logging, which I think you've gotten a taste of with Pacific High. You guys didn't make that happen, but you got handed the bag for the slash cleanup, for replanting, for spraying. It's going to take probably 5 years of spraying out there with Garlon, which isn't cheap, to control gorse. So we can't just be thinking in terms of we're going to, you know, get these properties up there and we're going to, you know, make all this money. So one of the things that drove Brown and that particular Board of Commissioners was the fact that Coos County had all this county forest. And they do have quite the tree farm out there that they have harvested for many years in a very controlled way. You know, they've got a, you know, real system.
20,000 acres, and they
Yeah.
harvest 1,000 acres on a 20-year rotation.
What puzzles me is last year when we had a tax levy, they also had a tax levy. So if these forests are providing them with so much income, how come they got to have a tax levy raise? I don't see that that's, you know, going to be our solution. And I see where these national forest pieces are. There's rather large expanses of private land that's already been heavily logged. That's practically a fire break all by itself. Sampras, Rainier, Weyerhaeuser, those properties in there really is a big area between here and the National Forest. So I just want you to consider that if you get into the logging business, you're talking about a 40-year system. And you have to have the amount of money to carry you over. I don't know if the money you made off of the Pacific High School lot up there, or across from Pacific High School, is enough to have covered your expenses. I've heard various tales about, you know, didn't get the highest price for the logs and this and that, and that's pretty typical. You're not alone. But I just really think that you may find that the expenses of logging are not going to outweigh, particularly if you don't already have a system in place that you can provide some of the work and you can provide some of the equipment, because that really adds up, especially when you got to build roads up in there and all the other stuff that goes with it. I also would encourage you, if we continue on, it sounds like this fire map thing is up in the air, before you go too far with it, that you may be considering talking with Coos Forest Patrol or Protection and have them look at it, because they have a much better grasp of how you need to manage forest to be actual fire protection. Thank you.
Neil Holcomb.
Thank you. Like many others here tonight, thank you for your dedication and for your attention to mostly the fiscal woes of the county and how to find a solution to them. I do oppose any part of a resolution that would call for exercising constitutional authority over federal lands. It's just not an accepted legal precedent that's going to be worth the county's trouble. Even if 30 years down the line you won a Supreme Court case, we'd still be 30 years in the red from fighting it. And the likelihood of that is just infinitesimal. It sounds as though, probably largely due to input from local governments and citizenry, that the fire map problem may get resolved to where there is no, to where it'll be a workable document and that a plan can be formed behind it. Again, you know that the county has fiscal problems that warrant immediate and constant attention. And that obviates the need for any sort of this. If we're going to have a say in federal land management for the betterment of the county, I suggest that we can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. And that by utilizing our contacts in the federal and state legislative assemblies, we can work out corroborative of agreements that will benefit all of us. Thank you.
D. Ragsdale.
Hi, good evening, and thank you again for this opportunity and for pulling number 7 from the agenda, but I don't think it's over. My concern, I'm deeply concerned that the county has entered into a contractual agreement with I always say that wrong, Veritas Research Consulting and Doyle Shamley. I could not find, after extensive research on every Secretary of the State webpage in the western states, a license for Veritas Research. The last business license that company held was in Nevada, and it was revoked in 2022 by the state of Nevada, and I did call them to re-verify that. Arcanus Management Corporation of Panama was their manager. 3 months later, in June of 2022, the Veritas registered agent resigned. That's the person, if you don't know what a registered agent is, that's the person or entity that gets served if you're going to be served legal documents. And that entity, it was an entity called Nevada, Nevada Serving Company. It wasn't even a person. I also went to Doyle Shamley's website for Veritas Research Consulting. I don't know if you have done that yourselves, but the website was last updated in 2020. It contains the following pages: Arizona war losses between World War I and November 2019, M14 and M1A detailed gun information and schematics, research that only includes a 1962 Federal General Services Administration document titled Inventory Report on the Jurisdictional Status of Federal Areas Within the States. And by the way, a weather page that you had to have a password for. If Veritas Research Consulting were a legitimate consulting firm, or Mr. Shamley, an experienced and trusted natural resource or forestry consultant, I would think his website would indicate, at the very least, the type of consulting that he does, the projects he has done, and the success rates for those projects, along with the credentials and contact information. And certainly no information, I mean, literally details of pages and pages of gun. The only minutes from other counties in which he pitched, but I can't find any implementation of the same anti-government, right-wing, extremist rhetoric of seizing public forest lands in the name of fire protection can be found online. I could not find anything, and believe me, I did a lot of research. But he did go and talk to a lot of counties and got paid for it, by the way, and some of them paid a lot. But they were all dating back to 2013 and 2015, so that's been 10 years. Ms. Wharton's, when she spoke on the 12th, last week, said that 12 counties are working with Veritas. Really? I want to see it. Where's the proof? I also have a call into Apache County asking about the success outcomes of the Veritas Research Consulting's work with them. I've talked to them today, and I left a message on Friday too. As you may know, and you may not know yet, I've submitted a public records request because I want to see the contract. I want to get my eyes on it with Doyle Shamley and Veritas. I've also asked for a public records request on your emails. I want to see what kind of emails are going back and forth. I've also asked for all your, and that's for Mr. Hollinger, I've asked for your emails specifically with Doyle Shamley between July 1 of 2024 and today's date, and all email correspondence between all of you. So I've requested that through a public records request, and I know there's a 5-day wait on that. You claim your Forest Service, the Forest Service hasn't engaged with the county in the management of forest lands within our county. And I hope you do realize that the Northwest Forest Plan is currently being updated. It's a 1994 plan that incredibly engages the public and locals in the forest management practices. And that's being updated right now. It's in the EIS phase. I'm assuming that you sometimes would rather bash the Forest Service than work with these incredibly good stewards of our public lands, and I hope you reverse that and try to engage in constructive conversation with them. And by the way, I'm deeply, deeply concerned that the federal government is cutting wildfire fighters because they've just taken a axe to everything. So Forest Service wildfire fighters who are temporary because they're seasonal are being cut. You also have a firefighting training station over here on Euchre Creek, and the only thing I've seen done there is a little bit of fencing and a shooting range for whomever goes out there, and I don't know who uses it, but it gets used. So where is this? And I apologize for the time, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for looking for solutions, but this is not the right path.
Terry Stone.
Hi, Terry Stone, Ophir resident, 45 years. My comments have been eloquently addressed. Thank you for your time.
Mark St. James. Mark St. James. I saw him here earlier.
Is there a back page? Just go to the thing. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Give Mark one more chance. Mark St. James, are you out in the hallway?
Doesn't look like it.
Nope. I did see him in the back earlier, but if he comes back, we'll address it at the end. Meg Humphreys.
Hello again, and thanks again for holding us at this meeting today. And I wanted to thank you, especially Mr. Trost, for your efforts to go towards Salem tomorrow and to get some more information about the fire maps, which obviously concern a lot of people in this county. I also want to just say that I'm really grateful that you removed that agenda item tonight, and hope that item 4 around the constitutional taking of the federal lands becomes permanently removed as part of your ways to address the fire hazards in the state and in our county. I think that doing this does increase a little bit of public trust in you, because I feel like between the loss of funds that are missing, even though they weren't on your watch, it still has a very big impact on the public's perception of what goes on in this office. And, continuing on a path where you are including the public interests and comments, and also not incorporating the intentions and plans of people that are not of and from this land, and that do not evoke trust in the public, that the consultants that you do put your faith in and build your plans around are people that are either local or have actual expertise in the areas in which you are trying to amend and make resolutions. So I thank you for doing those things for us and in our behalf. And I also do request that you possibly take a look further at some of the tax laws that have been put onto the private timberlands in this county. I know when these laws were put in place, it's long ago, before they were owned by corporate hedge funds and things like that, and probably could use a little bit of renovations themselves, just in an effort to try to generate some funds for the county. Thank you.
Janae Lloyd.
Hi again. I'm going to talk really close to this because it's hard to hear in the hallway.
You can pull it out and actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like freestyle.
Like my Mariah moment.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you for moving the agenda item. That's really great. I have a question. I know we can't do like workshop style, but maybe it's a yes or no. Do we have to declare a state of emergency in order to appeal the fire map?
No.
No. Okay. Maybe we could hear more about that another time. Okay, then if the stuff about the taking over the management of federal lands continues, I hope it doesn't, but if it does, one thing I would really like is for what we hear in these meetings to match up with what we get in like the PowerPoints and the packets. Like, Mr. Hollinger, you're like, I was on board with a lot of what you're saying. You're like, collaboration, we're going to work together. But then I read the PowerPoint and I'm like, I don't pick up on those same things at all. So the next time this comes to us, can we understand like what's going to be said and can it line up with what we see in the packets or hear in the PowerPoints? Because it's just getting really confusing. I don't know the Audubon woman, but when she was like, what's going on? I don't get it. I was like, amen. I'm with you. Okay, along those lines, at the workshop, you all said that you hadn't consulted with the county council about the possible litigation, lawsuits, and financial impact the county will for sure face if we do this federal takeover, right? And so it would be great to know when that's going to happen, and then can the public also get the feedback from county council when you do speak with them? Last, Mr. Hollinger. Sorry to point you out again, but I really liked your dad's speech. That was awesome. Like, he was asking us to not just listen. I think a lot of us are listening, but he was asking us to give you a chance, which I take as like keep an open mind. And I've tried to do that. I've like tried to really show up and keep an open mind. So to me, it was really disheartening or disappointing when someone at the workshop asked you, like, if hearing our feedback had caused you to change your mind about the resolution, and you just said no. And to me, I think it was a big missed opportunity to tell us, the people that voted for you, that you are hearing us. Even if you're like, hey, I'm still leaning in that direction, but I hear you. That would have meant a lot to me. And so it kind of eroded my trust in you as a commissioner. And I hope that you will take our feedback tonight and in future meetings a little bit more seriously and actually apply it. Like, Jay, Mr. Trost, it was awesome how you were like, you know what, it's a mistake to combine these. I felt like you're hearing us. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for standing up and doing something about that. I hope we can have more of that from you all. Thank you.
Tim Palmer.
I'm Tim Palmer from Port Orford, and like others here, I want to thank you for tabling this item and putting it off. But like others, I want to ask you to put off the so-called Constitutional Management Authority permanently. Why should we have to go through this agony over and over again of an overcrowded room? And that's what will continue if we continue to talk about that, and if it continues to be in your proposal. We just don't have to go there and to waste our time on that. That idea of your public forest takeover is, as I said before, impractical, uneconomic, unpopular, and illegal. And I just want to remind you, you all took oaths of office to follow the law. Doing what was in those original resolutions is against the law. It's illegal to assume authority for, quote, all public forest lands just by saying that. And then, in the name of fire control, to cut timber would, in any other scenario, be called timber theft. So that is just not the way to go here. I think part of the big problem here is that when other choices and experts are available, I cannot understand why you would follow the lead of an amateur constitutionalist based in Las Vegas who repeatedly lost elections in his own state of Arizona. Every legitimate constitutional lawyer and scholar will tell you to forget this pointless path. The judges and the Supreme Court, get this, 7 times in the last 200 years, have ruled down cases like this one. Most recently, 2 months ago, with President Trump's own Supreme Court, who ruled that they wouldn't even listen to Utah's plea for a program like what has been proposed here. So, and by the way, the taxpayers of Utah lost $500,000 and only got to hear that their claim was not worth listening to. So drop this foolish, pointless, dead-end path that we're all wasting our time and money on, and get on with the work that you really need to do. And I commend you for being involved in the fire risk, the insurance issues. We should be involved in helping landowners to fireproof their homes, because that's the best way to guard against wildfire danger. And I think you've seriously misunderstood the feelings of your constituents about public land. I mean, it seemed that given the websites we were told to go to, that we should be happy about getting rid of public land, but I think most people around here love our public lands. That's why that is why we live here. That's a big reason why we live here. And what you're asking us to do is to give up our ownership of those public lands and do what you want to do with them. And that's not giving us out, that's taking our lands away from us. And so just try to get that straight in your heads here. That whole idea of whose lands are they're ours, and people here love our public lands. So in short, I just plead with you to stick to your real jobs of running this county and quit trying to run the affairs of the federal government. Thank you so much.
Chris Fiverberg.
Thank you. Thank you. Most of my comments have been spoken to already, but I do have 1 or 2 things to add. First, regarding public engagement, I wanted to comment on our recent town hall and the rather rowdy conduct of some of the participants. It's not my place to approve or apologize for these participants, but I do understand their response, which, in my opinion, is your responsibility. You have chosen to align yourself with consultants that pride themselves on vitriolic and divisive political attacks that you sent your constituents to discover largely for themselves. And what they found, and people have spoken to this, is deeply troubling. It is not science, it's not the law, it's not educational. It's frankly dismaying. It's disheartening. The video of the November workshop that the consultant's proposal was outlined has only today been posted after numerous requests that it be so. The PowerPoint of that workshop provides no context. Several people have touched on this, provides no context for the statements made. Nothing in the workshop illuminated any of that. And the fistful of archive materials that were waved under our noses at the recent town hall as evidence of our ignorance are generally not available for review and haven't been made available by the Board of Commissioners for your constituents. Secondly, the commissioners have faulted the state map developers for not seeking local expertise. You argue this oversight resulted in the failure to consider the unique climate factors in Curry County that would have resulted in lower wildlife risk determinations. I appreciate your sensitivity to the use of less informed outsiders, but you have done precisely the same thing by insisting on hiring and following the advice of a political consultant from Arizona with no local knowledge of our landscape or of the unique demands our landscape places on the community, on foresters, and on firefighters alike. Lastly, if you persist in this constitutional challenge, I would point out that it ultimately rests not only on a successful argument, which Tim has nicely provided an overview on the futility of, but it also depends on the development of a wildfire management strategy, expertise that informed community members have found neither the Board of Commissioners nor your political consultants to possess. Given this, I urge you to convene an advisory group from locally available expertise to provide you and the people of Curry County informed oversight on this important aspect of your work. You can and must do better. Thank you.
Kirk, you're up next.
Commissioners, thank you, Kirk Viverberg from Port Orford, for considering a review and changing the language of your declaration. I'd like to address that language as you did, Jay, regarding the changes that you made to the final paragraph, and make some further suggestions if you decide to pursue that declaration. My comment is on item 7 of the State Wildfire Hazard Map. In the matter of the resolution declaring a local emergency, paragraph 1 asserts, whereas a physical threat to Curry County and its citizens as identified by the adoption of the State Wildfire Hazard Map, which has resulted from the systematic failure of the state and federal agencies to manage public forest land, know therefore be it resolved that the Curry County Commissioners declare a local state of emergency and formally declare the intention to assume constitutional management authority over all public forest lands within the metes and bounds of the border. That language. We acknowledge that the threat of the county is identified by the State Fire Hazard Map, yet in no way it identifies the causes as attributed to the federal agency Public Lands Management. Therefore, the cure of the county usurping the federal authority is without merit and justification in the language of the document. As a result, we advise and direct the council to refrain from obligating the tax dollars to pursue this declaration as stated. Secondly, in the matters of the resolution declaring the local emergency, paragraph 6, stating, whereas the Board of Commissioners noted in its formal commitment opposing the legislation enacted by Senate Bill 762 and 80, that no consideration was made for local climate factors in Curry County, unquote. The Commission points to the imminent harm to the county due to the omission of local advice and knowledge. As citizens of Curry County, we do now admonish the council against committing the same mistake and advocate for the formation of a wildfire risk advisory board comprised of those experienced in natural resource management, fire suppression, timber management, land use planning, insurance industry, relations, and federal law. The quality of the public comments made in previous council meetings indicate the availability of said persons with a willingness to support your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sue Goulet? Susan Goulet?
Is it Sue Goulet? Is that right?
Not sure.
Can you read that, Jay? Maybe I'm getting it wrong.
Yeah, Susan Goulet. I don't see her. She just left? Okay.
Cindy, is it Cindy? Carr, there you go.
I'm Cindy Carr. I live in Port Orford. I chose this region after a very long journey as one of the most pristine and beautiful natural areas still left in the western United States. I came here just to express, as a resident, my opposition to any plan that would seize control of federal lands or state lands and place them in the hands of the county. I think that's a mistake. And just as a matter of public personal justice, I would also like to magnify Commissioner Alcorn's warning that we fact-check the statements of our neighbors and friends. I'd like to amend that to, we really need to fact-check the statements of the commission as well. And, as I used to tell my students, consider the source and do your research. And that's all I came here to say is please stop this push toward controlling the federal lands. Thank you.
Poppy?
Hi. I decided to come speak on this today because I don't think you're getting a lot of outlook from the youth of our county. Curry County forests are home to multiple native plants and animals. Many of these animals rely on natural resources such as trees and foliage, as well as access to them. These forests are trusted within the hands of the federal government for a reason, not local politicians with unknown agendas. Living in Gold Beach, and I'm sure many of the other towns that built up Curry County, you learn quickly how important names, connections, and social status are within the town. Working within a local business also opens your eyes to the special treatment of many people within high-holding positions, such as Commissioner Patrick Hollinger. Plus, I'm sure many people in this room can recall many interactions with him themselves. These locals are well-known and well-connected, so opening the possibility of selling our federally protected public land to private owners, such as loggers, opens more doors than many would realize. Sorry, I'm shaking. Logging is a huge economic boost within Curry County. Many businesses and business owners rely on timber production throughout the Northwest. Plus, we ourselves have access to a large amount of forest. Starting at the Rogue River, spanning down to the Siskiyou National Forest, is still mainly public land, other than the very noticeable clear-cut plots created by loggers with little to no regrowth. Yet, Commissioner Jay Trost believes, as quoted, the private timber industry is managing their land right. Not right for the many animals who used to inhabit those acres of trees, but right for the men putting the money into their pockets. Thinning is a great way for federal agencies to be controlling our public land, not trusting local politicians to enforce what they see as correct policies within forest management. A quote from Commissioner Patrick Hollinger stated, "We're not looking to be the owners of this federal land." Yet, within reports of what is being planned, Curry County has claimed that they're considering taking over management of them. But similar to what my old history teacher used to say, Kevin Swift, 2 + 2 can equal 5 within politics as long as you sell your point. Plus, what brought Jay Trost to present this call to action from an article that may not be fully false or positive or whatever? He said he wanted to, or basically called this to action because building regulations would make houses less flammable, which would take away timber companies' earnings within our area due to construction sites only being able to build framework using wood. What a coincidence. As well as almost every privately owned plot of land is cleared, and like you said, there's a 20-year plan that takes 20 years to fulfill. Sorry. Do you, as people, want to lose access to your favorite hikes, swimming holes, hunting spots, and more? Do you want to risk loggers taking the clearings of trees farther than they already have? And do you as people want to put sole trust that giving that much control to local politicians would actually contain fires in the ways they claim? There's nothing for teenagers and kids of this community to do other than be outside. And you guys risking taking that away from people is pointless unless you want everyone inside playing video games, even though that's also talked against. Thank you for your time.
Last one is Alan Johnson.
My name's Alan Johnson. I'm from Port Orford. I didn't realize how many Port Orford people will be here today, but there was a bunch of us. I'm opposed to the emergency declaration for two reasons. One is that I don't see any language that puts any sort of obligation on the private landowners whose properties abut almost the entire strip of coastline, from 3 to 5 miles wide or more. That to me would be the bigger immediate threat to the 95% of the state's county's population that lives, I guess, apparently along the coastline. So if it is such an emergency, we should be levying some heavy demands on those private landowners as well, it would seem to me, and I don't see anything there. The other thing I want to just comment, I moved here about 7 years ago, and it was the public land that did bring me here. I mean, the coast is gorgeous, but it's also, the mountains are wonderful too. And all those gates on the private land, it's very frustrating trying to access the federal lands. And my fear is that if the county takes over this land, it's all going to go to leases to timber companies, and we're going to see yet more gates go up. Now that's speculation on my part, but I don't see that getting any easier. And it would really be painful if somebody lives here and gives up the federal access and at the same time gives up their own access to that property. So that maybe that's unfounded, but that's my fear. So anyway, thank you.
All right. So that concludes public comments. Now we'll move into commissioner comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Hollinger.
Sure. I appreciate all the public comments, both from last month's, or not last month's, earlier this month's meeting, the town hall meeting, and tonight. All the emails as well. I appreciate them all. I do. I read them all. And, and have already reached out to several other members as well, and have set up meetings with them for further cooperation and collaboration. I do want to, again, state that this isn't a federal land takeover. We're not looking to take ownership. We know that would be a gigantic battle, and us as a county not having funds to take on that battle all the way to a Supreme Court level. But what we're wanting to do is make sure that we have a seat at the federal table with the federal agencies and be included in that. And anyway, so we've reached out to them as well, and I have kind of a preliminary meeting scheduled next week with them to see about setting up a future workshop with the Forest Service as well as other stakeholders as well, to see what kind of additional stewardship plan we can put together for our forest lands. We're not looking at shutting down forest lands or taking over or restricting access to any of that. That's not what this plan would be about. I did attend today the Forest Collaborative meeting that Tabitha Root invited me to in regards to the, I can't remember the acronym of the grant, but it's a big federal Forest Service grant, up to a $10 million grant that their collaborative has been putting together. There's a lot of good information on that, and a lot of the stewardship information and proposal that goes along with that grant aligns very much with what, again, I would be wanting to try to do at the county level with that plan. And again, it's not a takeover of the ownership of the land. So I want to make that very clear. That's never been my plan.
Patrick, it says it's through constitutional management authority. This is your resolution. Are you telling us that that's going to come out of there? We're never going to see
Yeah,
that?
so we're working on already redrafting a lot of this, and
Take that out?
we're redrafting several items, and this will all come to further information that we can get in.
What you told us is that it will come out, because you just said that's not what you mean.
Why should we?
So let's try to not turn the business meeting into a town hall. I appreciate your comments, and we can talk about it in detail later, and Patrick will be available to you, but thank you.
Yeah. But anyways, I just wanted to, again, state all that, I very much have a work in process, gathering more information, have been talking with other individuals in the community about it, and again, maybe have another near future workshop with those stakeholders and locals. So,
Mr. Trost.
Number one, the public participation is admirable and inspiring, especially when you see youth who come to speak and are shaking while they speak, and because you know how nervous they are. So that's a pretty good thing when we have youth advocating. What I would say, my feedback on this scenario is in my opinion, it was an exercise in ready, fire, aim, and I think the piece that was missing was stated in one of the very first. It was stated in almost everybody's pieces, but one speaker hit on all pieces, which was, I don't think we did a good job of discussing the why, right? Why is this important? Then the next discussion is, okay, so if we understand that it's important, then what is it that we are seeking to do in its entirety? And I think we need to have a better idea of what that looks like. And that's when we bring in the collaboration and some of the experts, the stakeholders, the folks, and then we transfer once the what is essentially identified in terms of what is it we're trying to accomplish. Then I think we start looking at the next pieces, which is the when and the how. And I think the problem is this entire conversation got started off with the how, right? Which you're reading a lot of legislative jargon, which describes the how, I think, in some cases, or at least as maybe it was described to us, instead of starting with the why. And so, I think it's, once we revamp, essentially retool, and get a better grasp of the first two, I think it will help guide the process, if that process identifies to be guided. So I think that's in terms of the lesson that I have learned in this process. So yeah, as far as the language in the fire map piece, the updated version, I understand, I thought it was uploaded today. I got notification that it wasn't, but that it will be uploaded, I guess, by tomorrow. So you can see kind of some of the proposed updated language. But again, 100% proposed. Right now it's draft because of what many people have brought up, that there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of moving pieces. I will say that the initial discussion, probably highlighted by several people attending the meeting in Brookings, about the wildfire map itself, and some of the verbiage and declaration at that time was an influence. It did reach some of the decision makers in Salem the next day, and it was a point of discussion. I was called after that day by one of the senators saying, your resolution made it to Salem, and it's being part of a discussion of a bigger part of a discussion that's going on, that about the entire wildfire map project. So, so I just wanted people to understand that too. So that's all I have. Tom, hopefully I didn't have a bunch of ums and ands.
You weren't paying attention. You weren't paying attention.
So I hope I didn't have a bunch of ums and ands.
I was trying to look up something, but you did.
All right.
If we ask, are any other counties trying this in Oregon?
Yes. So Josephine County right now, they had a big town hall. They're looking at some avenues. I know that Coos has also been looking at a few things. Jackson County, I believe that Senator Graham, is that the name, right? Golden is Ashland. And so he's been in the Jackson County, obviously, been working with the Jackson County commissioners and constituents there. So it's been a big discussion. And then on the eastern side, it's a large discussion as well. I don't know if you've seen the map itself, but essentially it looks like it tails Curry County, then it kind of goes up, and it just then it spans out all across eastern Oregon. So So it's been obviously for it to have had the impact as immediate as it has while they're in session to be discussing making changes mid-session is a big deal. Influenced some of the senators. At least one of the senators who called me explained that to me. So that's all.
All right. So I don't have a problem admitting when I make mistakes, and there were definitely two mistakes that were made in this case. One was we combined the two issues. I think we talked about that. And the other was how we messaged it to all of you. And those are mistakes for sure. I tell you, this is a challenging job, and I make mistakes regularly, and I'll apologize for those two. But that being said, some positives that have occurred here is we got a lot of involvement from all of you on this and many others. We got a lot of emails. We got a lot of engagement with the public, which we so need. This county needs that right now. And we cannot solve this county's funding solutions without that level of involvement. So one of the things that really is a strong positive takeaway here is several of you have come up with some funding solutions, some kind of outside of the box funding solutions, which we had a meeting earlier today. It was a public meeting, and we discussed many of those funding solutions.
Well, every single one of your proposed ones. Well, the whole list was discussed today.
And we also discussed, I've had some meetings and phone calls with some of you, I don't see anyone in the room, but some of you that have spoke about this issue publicly before. And I shared my notes, and some of those were similar ideas. Some we can't do. We just legally can't do them. Others have a chance and should be definitely require further examination and further review. So we also discussed putting together a panel of people to help us with that. And I think that's something that we kind of have in place now. What do we call that, Jay? Do you remember?
Citizens Advisory Committee.
Citizens Advisory Committee, which will work at our direction. And that direction I would like to see be towards funding solutions, out of the box thinking, and taking some of those ideas and pushing them further down the road and see if we can actually implement some of those ideas. They're not going to solve the county's funding problems, but they will definitely have an impact on our day-to-day operations and the future of this county. So those positions are open right now, and we're going to need to work towards filling those. And as we do, I hope we get the same level of involvement from many of you in this room. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for all of the emails and the phone calls. And I just, we saw a young lady tonight give a passionate speech, And it doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree or not. It's just amazing to see that and that level of involvement. And that's what we need right now. We really need that. And I appreciate that. I applaud her. And I thank all of you for your involvement. So we're going to continue on with county business. If you guys want to take off, I just ask when you're in the hallway, try to keep it down so we can keep going with the meeting. We would appreciate that. But you're also welcome to stay. Next up on our agenda is the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I have one thing.
You want to maybe give it 3 minutes?
Yeah, let's let the room clear out here first.
You want to take a break?
Sure.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
What everybody has to say. Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody, we are back on the record. It is 7:48, and we will continue to move forward in the agenda. We are up to item 6, which is public hearing.
No, we're still
Okay, item 5, I'm sorry, consent agenda, you're right. You had a comment about that.
Yeah, so before we approve consent agenda, item number C for the approval of the minutes for our last business meeting on February 5th.
Okay.
I want to make note that item F, in regards to the TLT tax, where it says TLT tax by 3%, making the total percentage charge 10%, Hollinger seconded. I did not second because I had recused myself from that discussion and from that voting. So I want to make sure that's
Yeah, that
stricken from
was-
the record.
That was, I think.
You seconded. I
You
motioned.
seconded.
you
Correct.
seconded.
So if we can make that change.
Okay. Any other changes?
No.
So we can essentially approve the consent agenda. as-
So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda
As amended.
as amended.
I'll second.
All right, motion is second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0. Now we move into item 6, which is public hearing.
Just seeing if you had the template for the annexation.
I have the hearing script, but not the template.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll get to it. I'll find it. Oh, here it is.
You got it?
Yep.
All right, this is a public hearing before the Board of Commissioners conducted pursuant to ORS 198.857, annexation without election by petition of landowner. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll move to open the hearing.
And I'll second it, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0. The hearing is now open at 7:50 hours. We have one annexation into a sanitary district, 25-01. Owner is Knox, to the Wedderburn Sanitary District. Does the owner wish to speak? Do we have any public comments regarding this? All
Hey.
right, and is there a motion?
Hearing none, I will move to approve the petition for annexation of T36 South, R15 West, S25, TL 900, Gold Beach into the Wedderburn District.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0. And it is 7:51, and this public hearing is now closed. All right. Next up is public safety update. There's no one from the sheriff's office here. So we will move forward to Director of County Operations update.
The only update that I have of any import was that after being part of all this has been going on, I just have to say that that with all the public input that we've received on this issue, it kind of it makes a lot of the other issues that we've seen kind of pale in comparison. What I really appreciate about this is that the level of civility, people are hostile toward the idea, but I think it's really great that we were able to move forward through this. I haven't seen this before. I've seen a lot of
Angry.
crashing and burning previous to this. This is the thing that I was just impressed with the public's input on this. So that's all I got.
All right. Elected official updates. There are no elected officials here.
Yes, Ann?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ann,
Oh, gosh. Well,
would you like to give us an update? Port Orford, maybe?
I'm going to give you something because it's going to be kind of fun that might help you guys. So yes, I happen to be here. I will put on my mayor's hat now. I'm Ann DeLisis, mayor of the Port Orford. And I wanted to just tell you that we, like you, are facing fiscal difficulties and are scratching our heads and trying to figure out what's going on. And we're working with a financial committee of our council members and staff to work on projects. And later this week, the League of Oregon Cities is going to be hosting a special meeting for cities in our region that's specifically about revenue generation and revenue generating ideas that I'm going to be attending. And if I come up with any ideas, I will be happy to share that information with you to contribute to the pot of ideas, because I know it's absolutely important, and absolutely share your concerns about figuring out how we get public safety. So anyway, I will make a point of doing that. I know counties and cities have different things, but hopefully maybe some of those ideas will be helpful.
Thanks, Ann.
All right, Commissioner update, Commissioner Trost.
Okay, so like I said earlier, after this meeting, I'm going to head up north and meet at the Capitol tomorrow, and then Thursday I will be going to the Timber Conference. The ONC committee is giving a presentation at the Timber Conference at 2 o'clock. I'll be attending that, and then I'll make my way back here. And the other little piece, Miranda, so for those who don't know, we do not have an adopted county seal. We have a county logo, but we do not have a county seal. So the Economic Development Department has been developing one. What was one of the pushing factors on this is we were asked for our county seal to be on another document, and we didn't have one to put there. So anyways, she had been in the works of developing this for several months, and with a lot of discussion and collaboration, this is kind of what she came up with. We came up with feedback from lots of different individuals, and so.
You guys want to see it?
I think it's hanging right here too. Has it hanging here yet or not yet?
So that is the draft. I paid for that. So if we don't agree on the draft, the county's not going to be out anything. But however, so what I would say is, look at it. If we're good with it, for our next meeting, all we would need is a resolution formally adopting this county seal.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like the one thing stuck in there.
Yeah, so there's a little hidden gem in there. There's an Easter egg for people to find that makes it kind of unique to Curry County. So once you find it, you can't unsee it. You get in on the secret. So anyways, if you get a chance, there is one right in front of the dais here
That's very nice, Jay. I would almost recommend that everyone disapprove it, so Jay's stuck with the cost.
I'll just put it up in my office. Put a big draft on it. So. Did you find it? Is it Bigfoot? Yes. Don't tell everybody though. Okay, so that's all I have.
All right. My update is regarding a couple of upcoming meetings. One of the things that came out of our conversation today about future funding solutions was holding a workshop Friday at noon, right? Yep.
Yes.
That time right? Friday at noon. That'll be here in this room, and we're going to discuss the meeting that Patrick went to today. Jay will have additional information when he comes back from Salem, so we can incorporate that information in the workshop and have an open discussion about that. There won't be public comments because it is a workshop, but we will have an opportunity to share and hear the information that comes back from that. So the other thing is our next meeting. We have had many conversations about taking our meetings on the road so we can reach other people. We've been to Brookings, obviously. Our next meeting will be in Port Orford. That's going to be on March 5th, and that will be in the evening at 6 p.m. as well.
So I was going to touch on that date specifically. That's the date I am flying back from the NACO conference. So I won't even have the opportunity to call into that meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to push it off a day or two, if that makes any difference, or what the recommendation you guys would want for that.
I don't know what the availability of the
have
room is. That's
Yeah.
one issue.
Your microphone's not on.
It's not. We've had a couple of opportunities to have it there, but there were conflicting meetings that Port Orford was having. I would really like to have this meeting there, so.
Would it be so bad if Patrick was in Port Orford?
Thanks, Ted.
We'll have to see if the room's available, if we can move that to accommodate that schedule.
Sure.
If we can, we will. If not, we will.
I'm open and available.
It's not? Okay. You guys are busy there. You use that room.
And so the library there is not available, or?
Well, we want to film it, and
Yeah, they have all the things inside the city hall hearing room that makes it easier to upload to the public and get all that information out. Otherwise, we just have to do a
audio
recording.
and then everybody gets mad because we don't. Tonight we have problems tonight. That the camera that films the podium went out. So that one. So that one's not working. And when you watch this meeting, you're going to see that everybody that speaks, you're going to see the back of your head rather than your face as you speak. And then you'll see us again. Our equipment is end of life, past end of life. We're doing what we can with what we have. And I apologize for it. But we'll see, Patrick.
Okay.
We'll reevaluate that. Sure. Maybe Ann can look at some other dates, and we'll see what we can put together. That's all I have. Anything else? All right. It is exactly 8 o'clock, and we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.